Hello gentlemen, and welcome to another video lecture. Mr. Brown here. Today we're going to be talking about main idea versus theme. What's the difference? Well, let's start off with theme. As we've seen throughout the year, theme is the central message that the author communicates through the text. So where do we see theme? We see it in fiction, poetry, theater, even film. But say you're watching a movie, like say Avengers Endgame. It doesn't come right out and tell you the theme of this film is X, right? You go on a journey with the characters through that story, and by the end, hopefully the idea has been communicated. You don't walk out of the theater and necessarily say to yourself, oh, that was about hope in the face of darkness, but instead, it's a feeling that's been communicated throughout. Remember, there can be multiple themes in a piece of fiction. So for example, we read Where the Red Fern Grows this year, and there's the theme of hard work paying off, or putting things in God's hands, or of course the theme of growing up involving loss and leaving behind parts of yourself. Likewise, in William Shakespeare's The Tempest, we read a selection from the play in which Prospero, the magician, you'll remember, he is about to call forth this great storm to enact revenge upon his enemies. But if we read to the end of the play, we see that Prospero ends up forgiving these same enemies and essentially finds freedom in doing that. So one could say that the play's theme is freedom through forgiveness. This leads us to the main idea, or the central idea. They're the same thing. And we're going to see this mainly in nonfiction writing. So we're talking about historical writing, like the Triangle Factory fire pieces. We're talking about biographies and even news articles. Just as fiction can have multiple themes, nonfiction can have many main ideas. Every paragraph is going to have a main idea. However, there's going to be one central main idea that is overarching throughout the entire piece of writing. So if we open to page 274, right above Analyze the Text, we see some main ideas from the Triangle Factory fire piece. The header gives us the main idea of the paragraph, which is the Triangle Factory fire was a dangerous fire trap. And then it gives us two details that support that main idea. One, there were scraps of paper hanging from the rafters, and then two, there were always scraps under the table. So we can go back to the text and we can read through and try and find some more details that support that main idea. So what are some? Well, we can go back and look. They reference the narrow aisles. They reference no smoking rules not enforced. And in addition to that, fire drills that had never been held. Let's open up to Analyze the Text on page 274, and we look at number 1. The question is, review the text to find details about the different floors of the building. What is important to understand about these locations? Well, we see that the fire began on the 8th floor, where most of the workers escaped by elevators or stairs. But on the 9th floor, some used a stairway to escape. Unfortunately, the stairway was locked. These workers jumped to their death or died in the fire. On the 10th floor, workers climbed the stairs to the roof and then found safety. Number 2, reread lines 97 through 100. Why does the author give a detail about fire drills? And I think that goes back to what we were just talking about with the details as far as supporting that this was not a safe working environment. The author is giving reasons for the disorder and the panic that led to so much loss of life. The lack of fire drills meant that the workers had no idea what to do. Number 3, draw conclusions. According to the author, why might workers have jumped from the windows? Well, the author suggests that people jump from the windows so that their bodies would be identified. Number 4, cite evidence. What does the author seem to think of the firefighters' efforts during this disaster? We see the author believes the firefighters did what they could and acted heroically, but that their equipment was not sufficient and the situation was hopeless. Number 5, evaluate. What is most important to understand about this event? Well, it's most important to understand that this disaster could have been prevented had the proper rules been in place. And number 6, why is the story of the Triangle Fire still being told? Well, the story is still being told because of the lessons learned as a result of this disaster. And if we look at the end of the text, we see that many of the regulations that are in place today are a direct result of the events that happened on that fateful day. So the next text that we're going to be reading is entitled Uprising, and while it centers on the Triangle Factory fire as well, it actually takes you inside the building and introduces you to actual people who experienced this tragic event. So as you're reading, I want you to consider why the writer decided to take this approach and what kind of different feeling it gives to the text.